Hey folks, I'm glad you're here. My name is Chris, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the Bear Creek Arsenal 101, also known as the Grizzly. Full disclosure, Bear Creek Arsenal did send this firearm out to me for review. There was no exchange of money. I do get to keep the firearm, which is nice, but they have not paid me for my opinions of this gun whatsoever. Pretty straightforward. This is a Glock 17 style pistol, Gen 3 parts compatible. So if you want to do any interchanging and swapping, Gen 3 parts are going to work for you. I'm not going to delve too far into the nitty-gritty specs of this thing. There's a link down in the description that'll take you over to the Bear Creek Arsenal website if you're interested in getting more information on that kind of stuff. But the way that my review is going to go is I'm going to talk about my likes and my dislikes and the things that stand out to me about this firearm so far, as I've used it for about 500 rounds. If that low round count worries you, don't worry, there will be follow-up reviews on the continued performance of this firearm. Some interesting things to take note of before we get started with my likes and dislikes is just some of the feature set and the price point of this thing. So this thing is $295, which is pretty insane for what you're getting. Theoretically, a Glock style pistol should also have Glock durability and reliability. If that is true, and we will talk about that in this video a little bit, then coming in at that price point is pretty nuts. Talking about other budget brands like Taurus, just as one example, you can't get a gun for under $295 from Taurus that's going to have the reliable track record of a Glock variant pistol. Even something like the PSA Dagger, which has been proven to be relatively reliable given its budget price point, this thing comes underneath that. So if this can provide any kind of durability and reliability that is comparable or better to some of these other options on the market, that's pretty interesting, especially considering we have a threaded barrel, we have window cuts, we have a optic mounting system right out of the box. None of this stuff had to be done aftermarket, all for under $300. I just think that's really important to note as we get into the rest of the video. But now let's get into the things that I really like about the Grizzly. So the first thing is going to be that optic mounting system. It was super duper easy. Literally just took this optic off of another slide and slapped it on here. It's cut already for your RMR Hollow Sun style sights. So this is just a 507 CV2. And through those 500 rounds, I've had no issues with the optic moving around. I don't think it's exactly like perfectly flush fit, super tight in here, but it's pretty close. So I'm not expecting to have any issues. I did witness mark my screws at the beginning of my review, and those screws haven't moved. The optic hasn't lost zero. No issues with their optic mounting system so far. The next thing I want to mention is the extras. We've got slide serrations, we've got window cuts, which I'm not sure how much weight they actually shave, but they do look cool, so I do appreciate that. And we have the threaded barrel, which is super nice in case I ever want to throw a suppressor on here. I can almost guarantee you I will, so that I can test the reliability of this thing under suppressed fire. Quickly gonna pull off my X300 just so you can see that we have as many teeth as you could want on this tactical rail that is underneath here. Instead of like a normal Glock just having the one notch here at the front, we have several notches, which means I can mount this specific X300 on here, which does mount at the second notch. We do have a flared mag well on this guy, which is super nice for indexing mags. And as I've been doing mag changes on this thing, they've been really smooth, haven't had any issues. It also gives a little bit of a relief cut for my pinky to sink into. Now that might be just hand specific because of the size of my hands, but the undercut and that little swoop at the bottom for the mag well create a really nice purchasing area for me. The stippling on this thing right out of the box is really, really nice. It's very grippy. It's not over aggressive. It doesn't seem to be ripping up my shirts as I am concealed carrying this thing. It also doesn't rip up my hands, but it seems to give just enough grip when I am purchasing this thing to have optimal control over the firearm while shooting. Next thing I want to point out is a little bit of a relief cut that gives us a gas pedal right here, and it has the same stippling on it that goes into the grip. So when I am doing my thumbs forward grip, I can get my thumb right in there and I can wrench down on that a little bit just to help me control recoil and get my dot back online. The trigger is actually going to come into my likes department. People tend to not have good things to say about Glock style style triggers in general, this one seems totally fine to me. It seems like your typical striker fired. We do have the little safety nub. I don't know if this is just a stock Glock trigger or if it's something else that Bear Creek Arsenal has put in or their own thing or whatever, but I find that it's got a really defined wall, maybe a little bit of creep, and it's got a pretty clean break for the most part, and the reset is pretty tactile and clicky, and it doesn't take very much to get this thing to reset in general. So I'm honestly a huge fan of that trigger. The last thing that I want to mention here is going to be the reliability, which does come into my likes category. It is only 500 rounds, but 500 rounds is usually enough time for you to start seeing issues, especially early in a pistol's life. Through those 500 rounds, I had no issues of any kind that weren't user error. I'll talk about some of the user error in my dislikes because some of the things on this gun do make it easier to make mistakes for certain specific reasons. But as for the firearm itself, it performed perfectly reliable through its first 500 rounds. Before I get into my dislikes of the Grizzly, I want to mention some partners I have here on the channel. One of my favorites is Axel. These are their X-Core earbuds. They have a whole bunch of different options when it comes to ear pro. They do have traditional muffs if you're into that, but these are by far my favorite. They're just simple, light, little earbuds that disappear as soon as you put them in your ear, so they're very low profile, which is great, and they're super versatile. You don't only have to use these on the range. I use them at work to block out truck noise that would be damaging to my hearing otherwise, and while I'm doing that, I can listen to podcasts. I use them when I go to the gym. I use them when I go for runs. I use them when I take the dog on walks. I use these things a ton. They charge up in the case. They're tiny and easy to store. Very convenient. I highly recommend these. If you use the link down in the description to get over to the Axel website, it'll auto apply a 15% off discount code, although nothing on their website is ever being sold for full price. They're always doing sales. Make sure to go and check out Axel. The other partner I want to mention is one that has changed my concealed carry life forever. This is the Leisure Carry clip-on belt. I don't usually wear pants with belt loops, and now thanks to this, I never have to. This clips onto any waistband of any pair of pants that you own and instantly gives you the same amount of stability, security, and concealability of a normal concealed carry belt, but in the comfort of whatever joggers, sweatpants, or sport shorts that you end up wearing. If I ever leave the house, odds are good I'm wearing my Leisure Carry to carry my gun in. If you're interested in checking this thing out, I have a full review of this thing on the channel already, and there's a link down in the description that'll take you over to the Leisure Carry website. You will not regret getting yourself one of these things. Getting into my dislikes of the Grizzly, the first thing that I want to mention is that we do not have suppressor height sights on this guy. The sights are the same height as my current optic base, so maybe that would be different if I had a different optic that sat a little bit lower naturally in the gun. The optic cut itself is actually pretty low, but not low enough for me to get the sights from the factory to see over that. Obviously, this is an easy and inexpensive switch, but it would have been nice to have suppressor height sights right from the factory. The next dislike I want to mention is the mag release. It is big, it has a lot of surface area, but it doesn't stick out very much, so it is hard to actuate. This, just like the sights, is another aftermarket parts upgrade thing. Obviously, would rather not have to do that, but this thing is hard to actuate when you first get this thing. I've only got two more dislikes to mention here. The first one is going to be the slide stop slide release. Again, same similar issue with the mag release. It is kind of flush in there and hard to actuate, even when you throw a new full mag in here and you go to hit that. Usually with a lot of guns, it's pretty easy to get that slide to go forward on a new round. This guy is very sticky, and even through 500 rounds, that really hasn't broken in yet. And the last thing, and this is not exclusive to the 101, this is just a Glock problem in general, it's going to be that grip angle. So I usually carry a X Macro from SIG, and it's got a much gentler grip angle that I am super used to over thousands and thousands and thousands of reps. It took some getting used to in order to get my dot lined up on a holster draw with this guy. I kept coming in either way too low or way too high. Just getting used to that Glock grip angle drives me absolutely nutty. It's why I've stayed away from them so long, because I know that is an issue, a specific issue for me. And then switching back to my X macro after this, I was having the same issue of finding my dot. So if you're going to go Glock, you pretty much have to go Glock 100% in my opinion, based on the grip angle. Would love to see, if this is even possible, a company come out with a Glock variation that does not have the severe grip angle. But that's just a personal dislike that I have here of the Grizzly. That's not necessarily for the Grizzly, but is just on Glock variants in general. Getting into my final opinion on the Grizzly, would I recommend this to somebody who's looking for a Glock 17 style Gen 3 pistol? I think I would. Some of that is based especially on the price point of $295. That's pretty ridiculous considering the extra features that you get. That's kind of the thing that impresses me here, is the price with the feature set. So one of the main things is that optic cut. Adding an optic cut to a gun like this would usually add an extra $50 to $100 from one model to another model across different companies that make Glock variants. So having that included on this thing and not having that price jump over $300 is absolutely wild. Having a fully notched rail is super cool. Having that magwell that is optimally flared is awesome. The grip of this thing is great. I think it looks really good as well with those window cuts, with that stainless barrel, with the freaking Grizzly on the handle. I think this thing's got a lot going for it. I know people don't have favorable opinions of Bear Creek Arsenal in general, but my question at this point of testing this specific firearm is, why? I know there's the whole buy once, cry once thing, but shouldn't we as an industry be looking positively on companies who are looking to lower the price of firearms in general and increase the availability of quality at the same time? Folks, if you like this video, I'd appreciate it if you would like, subscribe, and comment. All those things really help the channel out. If you're interested in more content from me, I post lifestyle content as well as product highlights and range day highlights on my Instagram. So if you want to be most up to date with the different things that I'm working with, go and follow me there. Make sure to check out those affiliate links down in the description if you are interested in any of the products that I talked about in this video. I appreciate your view, and as always, I will catch you later.